Hey everybody, it's Craig again. It's another edition of Unbreakable the podcast. It is Monday, June the 8th. And I thought we'd do a nice little podcast today, talk a little bit about sports. I also have a movie in a week, to talk about. Back in the day, we used to talk uh TV, classic TV of the week, movie of the week, and they were some of my most watched episodes. So I figured, well, let's do another one. And there's a special reason to do it too. So we'll talk about that in a minute. Uh, Beautiful weather here in Pennsylvania. It's cool today, high only around 80, but it's no humidity. There's a doubt by the end of the week, though, it is supposed to get red hot in there like hell. Ugh. And I hate that. I hate the humidity. I hate it. I just hate it. But hey, better than snow, right? That's the way to look at it. Anyway, back to sports. So the Phillies, there you go. Phillies and Eagles all geared up today. Phillies took 2 out of 3 from those pesky Chicago White Sox. You know that White Sox team. They lost 121 games not too long ago. They have a pretty good team. They are athletic and speedy and powered and young. And I think in a couple of years, they're going to be a team to reckon with. But Phillies took care of business, took 2 out of 3 at home. Now, Phillies are still 9.5 games back in the East. Can't make any ground because those Braves that are in hot Atlanta are playing very, very well. Phillies have dug themselves such a hole. I think it's going to be tough to get out of. But hey, I look into this one. As long as the Phillies make the playoffs, anything can happen. Just get in, and with the Phillies pitching staff, think about it. 5-game series, 7-game series. You got your Christopher Wheeler, your Zach Wheeler, Christopher Sanchez. What the hell am I talking about? It's Christopher Sanchez, who I think, it's a shame he lost that scoreless streak. I was at that game, by the way, last Wednesday. And everybody gave him a standing ovation when he lost, broke the streak there. Of course, I did it because I can't stand, but that's okay. But anyway, what a guy. He gives off these Steve Carlton vibes to me, I watched Carlton pitch a lot growing up, and he always had this voice, this command about him, that you thought you had a good chance to win that day. You go out with Steve Carlton on the hill, and you have a good chance of winning. Well, that's the way you think about Christopher Sanchez there. And he pitches tonight. They're up in Canada, up in Toronto, playing those pesky Blue Jays. So, in a short series, be it 5 game, 7 game, you got Sanchez and Wheeler back to back, and then Luzardo, and who knows, maybe the Phillies add a pitcher at the trade deadline. That's a pretty good. I'll roll with that. Going into the playoffs, what? The playoffs, pitching and defense wins. Which got us for surprise, as we saw by the Phillies' lack of offense these past few postseason. But I think the Phillies are in good shape. As long as they stay in the wild card race and they get one of those wild card places, anything can happen in the playoffs. So, let's see what happens. Sixers hired this new guy who was introduced today. President of basketball operations. I don't know. I mean, to me, anyone has to be better than the guy they just asked, right? Daryl Morey. What a useless bum he was. Can't imagine tell. He didn't do anything. He screwed up the team. I mean, how can you trade Mikal Bridges? And how can you trade, that was Brett Brown. But, this whole organization, they just got to stop with the losing. They have a loser's mentality. So many mistakes are made. This guy trades, our favorite guy, Jared McClellan, who went to Oklahoma City, and he helped him quite a bit. He's a young guy, a shooter. I don't know. I just didn't get Daryl Morey. I just didn't get him. and then it extended Joel Embiid $60 million a year. Oh, well, we just got placed half of the games and knocked out. You know, we just made too many bad moves. So it had to be that the Sixers probably sleep on. I don't know anything about them other than punch of the Cleveland Cavaliers. That's a bad one. I don't. But so anything's worth a try, right? Gotta rebuild this franchise. Gotta get back to the way it was. I mean, look at all these other teams in the playoffs. The Knicks, Sixers, and then what near the then near the Celtics, the Cavaliers. Some of these other teams in the East, they just they got to be a little wiser about what they do with the free agent money, the trades they make, and the drafts. You know, you got to be a little bit wiser about how they evaluate players and how they spend the money. And hopefully this guy will do. So, speaking of which, tonight, big game, game 3, NBA Finals in New York. The Knickerbockers trying to go up 3 games to 0 against those San Antonio Spurs. Well, you know, it's a big deal because the Knicks are playing at home, and you know, Trump's going to be there today, which throws the whole thing off. I mean, you know, it's extra security. Those poor Knickerbocker fans have to get there 2 hours early to get through all the security, you know, and all kinds of other things, inconveniences. Poor babies. Well, but it should be an interesting game. I mean, why are the Knicks are back home and they're up 2-0? Why are they only a basket favorite over San Antonio? Now you would think San Antonio is pretty desperate. They got to come out and win this game too, or else they're going to be out 3-0, and that's almost impossible to come back 3-0. So it's do or die really for the Spurs tonight. But you know, how can you go against the Knicks? They've won 13 games in a row in the playoffs. That's unbelievable. You can't go against them. So I don't know. And who's going to come out? The Wemby, this guy, he's so soft. He's like the Stay Puft Puff, you know? Like the guy who was in Ghostbusters, the Marshmallow Man. You know, he's soft. He's soft. We thought Joel Embiid was soft. This guy's soft. Is he going to come out like he did against Oklahoma City? That one game where he scored 42 points, he grabbed 24 rebounds? Or is he going to hide? You know, he's 7'4", standard basket. I mean, you could just hold the ball up like this, and nobody's going to get it. You can't reach up there. If the guy developed a skyhook like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, nobody would be able to block his shots. He'd be unstoppable. Instead, he's like a Joel Embiid. He wants to be out with a 3-point, which he may make a couple, but I'm sure the Knicks have said, good. Take all the 3-point shots you want. Stand out there, big fella. We'll get all the rebounds. And when you see this, fine. Take all you want. I don't know, but it should be a circus of them tonight. And the New York fans are pissed off because they can't have watch parties. You know, a lot of them gather outside in Madison Square Garden if they can't get in, and they get a ticket into the finals, like in the upper deck in the nosebleed section. You can pay like a couple $1,000. It's ridiculous. But usually the fans that can't get in, they gather outside the doors and they have watch parties. They can watch these big screen TVs. Can't do that to them because the big honcho, the head honcho is not tonight. And so nobody's allowed to hang around. So I don't know. It's gonna be like circus or two. It should be interesting though. I told you before, I'm not a Knicks fan, but I did pick the Knicks to win the championship. And this was before the playoffs started. Why did I pick the Knicks? Because I just felt they were ready. Felt this team has been together, mostly these Villanova boys, Brunson, Hart, Bridges, they've all been together uh, for a long time. And it's about time that they put it together and win. Plus, there was no clear favorite in the East this year. The Celtics, they turned out to be paper tigers, not the Sixers. The Cavaliers weren't all that. So, who is going to be? Yeah, when you get to the finals and you play San Antonio or Oklahoma City or even Denver, yeah, you would think those Western teams might be fair, but I don't know. I just had a feeling down in my bones that the Knicks were going to win the championship this year, and they're halfway there. So maybe we'll see. Maybe I was glad when you did it because that's all you hear about now. Oh my God, Knicks, Knicks, Knicks. Spent on TV, Knicks this, Knicks that. Yeah, stop you. Look. Anyway, tomorrow night you got your Stanley Cup Finals continuing. Game 4, Las Vegas and Carolina. What a series that's been. They're all going to overtime and they're all fighting each other. It's great hockey, great sports. So I still think, even though they're down 2-1, I still think the Carolina Hurricanes are going to series of the Stanley Cup. I mean, certainly if Vegas wins tomorrow night and they go up 3-1. My prediction is going to look too good. But I think the Canes win tomorrow, and the Canes go back home and win. And they just do not take the series. I just don't. So that's going one. The previous, the Belmont that ran last Saturday, Golden Turbo, Tempo, whatever he won again. I wonder if that owner was pissed off at herself for not giving that horse a chance for the Triple Crown. She didn't run it in the previous. But I got to give her credit. She thought the horse is kind of first. You want to kill the horse, so, spaced it out and it won 2/3 of the Triple Crown. Now, I think next year we're not going to have this problem because I hear through the grapevine what might happen is the Triple Crown races are all going to be spaced out a month. You're going to have your Kentucky Derby still the first Saturday in May, and then you're going to have your Preakness now the first Saturday in June, and then the Belmont Stakes will be back at Belmont Park next year in New York, the first Saturday in July. And so it gives the horses a chance to rest up in between races. And the good horses could be in every race. But that's what you want, right? You want the good. Why even have these special races if the good horses aren't going to be involved? So sounds like that's going to happen starting next year. So maybe we'll have more Triple Crown winners after they implement this new rule. We'll see. Football's right around the corner. Teams like Eagles are having mini camps now, and I can't wait. I can't wait till the NFL season starts. I think Howie Roseman might still make some news before official training camp starts in the summer. And I'll tell you what, I think Denver's going to have a good year. A lot of people are down on it. Why? They're down. AJ Brown is no longer with us. That sounds like he's dead. No, he's not dead. He's up in New England. We always wanted to do. Good. Let him go up there. Let him go. And he's up there. And, but I still think the Eagles have a good team behind Jalen Hurts, Saquon Barkley, Devontae Smith, and they still have a lot of weapons. So we'll see what happens. So I'm looking forward to September. Start it up again, right? NFL season. All right, so that's sports. Yeah. Before I do this movie of the week, which I think is going to be good, I really do. I think you notice this movie is from the 80s, and you know this movie. Excuse me, cheers. This looks like orange juice. It's not. It's orange flavored water. I always doctored my water with how about that Philadelphia accent? Water with water flavoring. Because I drink a lot of water because I have kidney stones, or used to have kidney stones. So the doc says, gotta drink a lot of water. Okay, it's fine. So, but in order to consume like 3 bottles of water a day, uh, you gotta spritz it up with a doctor it up, so to speak, for a little water flowing. So, uh, now the reason I'm doing this movie, all right, I'll tell you. 42 years ago today, my friends, 42 years ago, this movie was released. It came out in June the 8th, 1984. What were you doing in 1984? Me, I was just starting college. I'm starting it up in September. So in June, I just laid around. I didn't know what the hell I can't remember what I had for breakfast. How am I supposed to remember what I was doing back in 1880? But anyway, it's my favorite decade. The movies, the music, the TV shows, the big hairstyles. I love the 80s. 42 years ago today, Ghostbusters came out. Who you gonna call? Ghostbusters. If you gotta feed, who you gonna call? Yeah, song made it to #1. Ray Parker Jr. was the guy who did that song. I don't think he did anything else, did he? Well, he's like a one-hit wonder. This guy. Ghostbusters. Now, I'm going to tell you all about Ghostbusters. Sit back and enjoy. And I got to put my glasses on for this thing because, well, I can't read without my glasses because I'm 118 years old. All right, guys. One of my favorite movies, Ghostbusters. And one of your favorite movies, too. Uh, Came out in 1984, has a 95% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. So obviously, a lot of people love this movie, including the critics. In fact, Ghostbusters was the highest grossing film of that beautiful year, 1984. Do you remember the name of the 3 Ghostbusters? Venkman, Stantz, and Sprengler, whatever. It was actually nominated for 2 Oscars. You knew that? For Best Song. For Well, that was nominated, but it did not win. You know who won that year? It's so full of nuggets of truth. What won? I just called to say I love you, Stevie Wonder. That song was in some kind of yeah. Anyway, and it was also nominated for special effects. Did win that. Did win there anyway. Um, movie was made for they don't have an exact number, anywhere between 25 and $30 million. It was made for, which back in those days was kind of big money. It's big money to be even now. It made, get this, let's say they spent $30 million to make Ghostbusters. It made $370 million. And again, we're talking 42 years ago. So what is that like now? It's a lot more, I'll tell you that. So a lot of people love this movie all through the summer of 84. And actually, Dan Aykroyd wrote the movie. Well, he came up with the original idea. Here's how Ghostbusters came to be. Aykroyd was always big into paranormal stuff. In fact, I don't know if you know it or not, but his grandfather wrote a book about ghosts. That kid you know. His father was a big ghost guy. His mother always said she used to see ghosts around the house. Aykroyd grew up with all this ghosty stuff around in the family, you know? So he was always interested in ghosts. He came up with this idea in '84 to write this movie about ghosts. Now, originally, the original script was supposed to be set in the future. The premise of Ghostbusters was you had this three guys, like it is now, four guys, going around killing ghosts. But the original script had these guys sit in the future on in outer space on different planets. So it was kind of like a merge of Star Wars and Ghostbusters, where they would get in their flying saucer or spaceship, and they would fly to different planets. I kid you not, this was real. It sounds goofy, doesn't it sound goofy? But they would go to different planets and get rid of spirits. Well, when Aykroyd was writing the movie and he tried to pitch the movie to movie studios, they liked the concept of the ghosts, but they didn't like the future part. So Aykroyd was introduced to Harold Ramis, who became the director of Ghostbusters. And Ramis, no, got that wrong. He's not the director. Ivan Reitman was the director. And we'll get to him in a minute. Ramis was writer and actor. In fact, he played one of the Ghostbusters too. But he was a writer. Now, what happened was the studios got Aykroyd and Ramis together and said, "Yeah, it's good, boys, but you got to refine the script a little bit." So they did. So one of the things Ramis did was say, "We got to base it on Earth because it was too darn expensive. This movie was never going to be made." In fact, there was a very famous meeting Aykroyd and Ramis had first time they met each other at a restaurant in Hollywood. Sat down, Ramis coming from the studios, because he was involved with Animal House and some of the other pictures before Ghostbusters. Some of the other comedies, Stripes, he was in there with Bill Murray. So Ramis said, "Dan, it's a good idea, but it's never going to work because it's too expensive to make with all these special effects, like a Star Wars thing. We want to base it on Earth, and we want to make it more real and more contemporary." So Aykroyd wanted that. City changed the script. The very famous thing when they got together, and Aykroyd had a house on Martha's Vineyard at the time. I don't know if he said either. They sequestered themselves along with the families in Aykroyd's Martha Vineyard house for about 2 weeks. 2 weeks. And specifically, Aykroyd and Harold Ramis in Aykroyd's basement. And that's where they wrote or rewrote the script for Ghostbusters. Took them 2 weeks to go over it. Now, what they would do is Aykroyd would write another draft. Harold Ramis would be on the other side of the room writing his version of Ghostbusters. When they were done, they exchanged scripts so that Aykroyd looked at Ramis' script and did his editing. Ramis did the same thing with Aykroyd's script. They finally merged the scripts together and they came up with pretty close to the script that they were going to use. It was tinkered with again by some other writers at the studio, but that was basically your Ghostbusters. But Aykroyd did keep some stuff like the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. That was Aykroyd's idea. It was one of his original ideas when he was thinking about it in his little brain of the Ghostbusters movie. He said, "Wouldn't it be cool if this Stay Puft Marshmallow Man came out of the East River of New York City?" That's actually true. That's what he thought, that he would come out in a river. A lot of refinement. I mean, they based the movie in New York because Aramis and some of the other guys, Ivan Reitman, were from New York. They wanted to be in like a New York story, using a lot of New York locales, landmarks, blah, blah, blah. So they based it out of New York. And the other part of the shoot was LA. They did a lot of stuff in LA too. So anyway, they wrote the movie, and here's what happened first. Originally, Aykroyd wanted his buddy and his fellow blues brother, John Belushi, to play the Bill Murray character. Can you imagine that? John Belushi. Yeah. But while Aykroyd was writing the script, Belushi died. In fact, Aykroyd got the call that Belushi was found dead, accidental drug overdose, while he was writing, how creepy is this? While he was writing a line in Ghostbusters for Belushi to sing. How creepy is that? And you know me, I love coincidental fate, destiny, things like that, you know? But that's true. So that's what happened. And also, Aykroyd wanted his other buddy, Eddie Murphy, who was from Saturday Night Live, to be in the movie too. I think he was going to play the role that Ernie Hudson played, which in Aykroyd's original script would have been a much, much more bigger role than what it turned out to be. And Eddie Murphy was supposed to play him too. And what else? Oh yeah. Well, we're going to talk about this, but we're not going to talk about the sequels. There were like tons of sequels, you know. There was a Ghostbusters 2 came out in '89, which wasn't too good. And then they had a movie called in 2021 called Ghostbusters Afterlife, which wasn't good. And then they had one in 24, Ghostbusters The Frozen Empire. Think about it. There was a cartoon series. There's all kinds of merchandise they made from this movie. All these people made this, all kinds of money. Think about it, all the t-shirts, that logo, that famous logo with the ghost, with the no, crossing it, throw it down. They all made money. Like these little cars, like ectoplasm, like the ambulance converted into the ecto thing, and the little Hot Wheels thing. They made money from that. There was all kinds of cool toys and merchandise made from Ghostbusters. They all got a piece of that. If they were smart, a lot of these people who were involved in the movie also took a piece of the movie shares, you know? So they got a little piece of the box office too, along with their regular salary for acting in the movie, writing the movie, blah, blah, blah. So it's big time merchandise. Big time. And then, of course, like I said, you had the Ghostbusters song, which Ray Parker Jr. We'll talk about that a little bit too. Do you know there were a few guest cameos in Ghostbusters? Did you notice them? Larry King was in it as a cameo. Debbie Gibson was a popular singer at the time. Do you remember Debbie Gibson? She was sort of like this teeny bopper. She was sort of like Debbie Gibson. Was like Taylor Swift before Taylor Swift, but just not as good. Yeah, Debbie Gibson had a few songs, but really, she wasn't everything that they were great about, you know. Anyway, so yeah, Aykroyd's father did write a book. It was called A History of Ghosts, and the grandfather also was in the Ghost. And the original script was much more serious about ghost hunting. Then, you know, it was always intended to be a comedy, but it was much more serious. Once Harold Ramis got involved, it became much more of a comedy. It's sort of like Stripes, you know, Animal House, that sort of thing. So he really lightened it up a lot during his drafts of the script. And originally, they couldn't use the name Ghostbusters because there was something else out there, some sort of video or something called Ghostbusters. Not one word, two words. And then until they got the rights to name the name Ghostbusters, they considered it calling some other stuff like Ghost Stoppers, Ghost Breakers, Ghost Smashers. Who you gonna call? Ghost Smashers. Doesn't have the same ring to it, does it? Anyway, but from that movie, there was that movie even changed our language. Everything was Ghostbuster. Everything was Busters after that. If you were alive back then, how I was, you remember this Buster was a Buster. The '84 elections. Oh, this poll was a real Buster. Everything was Buster, and it came off of Ghostbusters. So that became a part of our language that we used. The original, there were some ideas in the original script that were cut later on, like Aykroyd imagined an asylum haunted by celebrities. Like, think about it. Like, the ghost of John Wayne, would be haunting this house, and the Ghostbusters were asked to go in and get rid of John Wayne. Well, I'll tell you, Pilgrim. And, so all these famous celebrities, dead celebrities, were haunting this place. And I think it sounds like a cool idea. Maybe they ought to revive that. Well, think about it. All these people in the past, you could have them all come back. But they got rid of that. And there was also an idea of using a gas station in New Jersey as a focal point of the movie Ghostbusters. This was not only a gas station, it was also used as a containment center for ghosts. So you call it a ghost, it goes into the cage or whatever, the vacuum or something, and all these spirits were held at this gas station in Jersey. I don't know. I think they did the wise thing there and got rid of that. I don't know. It just doesn't sound right. Anyway, so there were a lot of ideas. And believe it or not, I don't know if this occurred to you or not. Ghostbusters, there were a lot of analogies, not only at the time, but later on to the Wizard of Oz. Think about it. You got the three guys there, right? Who one had the brains, one had the heart, and one had the courage thing, like was the real goofy guy, like the Cowardly Lion, all with the funny stuff. That was Bill Murray. The smart guy, like Harold Ramis, the guy with the heart, Aykroyd, and Aykroyd even said that. He said, well, we were thinking about it, consciously or unconsciously, we thought about the Wizard of Oz a lot when we were reading the script. What else? Oh, so then there was a character. Oh, yeah. I gotta tell you this. Bill Murray, I tell you, he was a little reluctant to sign on to this movie, Ghostbusters. He finally agreed to it. But they said Bill Murray was good for this. I don't know if he's still doing this or not. Of Kevin and Paul. In other words, they sent the script to Murray. And he liked it, but he didn't want to commit to it. Meanwhile, Aykroyd and Ramis are like, well, come on, we got to move fast with this movie because apparently the studio, Columbia at the time, wanted it made. They gave Aykroyd and Ramis an ultimatum. Said, all right, we'll finance Ghostbusters, but we want the movie done in 16 months. So in other words, they went to Columbia, they went to the studio in March of '83, and the studio said, okay, that's fine. We'll finance it. We'll give you the green light, everything you want. But the movie has to be done by June of '84 so we can release it in the summer of '84. Big blockbuster. If so, anyway, so they worked their asses off. Aykroyd and Ramos wrote the final script day and night. They worked day and night to get the script done. Because after the script, then you got to get the permission, you got to get a special effects team on board, you got to hire the other actors, uh, in the movie. It takes a lot to make the movie. So how to get this all done in 16 months, including the filming of the movie, editing the movie, was a lot. In fact, Ivan Reitman had to actually, because he was on a time limit, had to actually edit the movie as he was filming, which isn't very rarely done. It's not done very like that. You do the movie and then you do your edits, your post-production, as they call it, after the movie. And sometimes those edits could take up to a year. You not take your time. They were on such time constraints put on by the studio that Reitman said, I can't do it any other way. I gotta edit while we're filming. So here you got the guy filming during the day and then editing it. No, this was sort of like a rush job, Anyway, so here they go to Bill Burr. And they say, all right, Bill, are you in or are you out? Either shit or get off the top, as they say, Bury him to walk, bury him to walk. In fact, right up to the night before shooting, can you believe this? He calls Aykroyd or somebody and says, all right, I'm in. I'll be there. I'll be on set too. What a guy, huh? So, and from what I understand, the script of Ghostbusters was being refined right up to the day of shooting. In fact, Ernie Hudson, who was hired as one of the Ghostbusters, again, Eddie Murphy was supposed to have his role. Eddie Murphy refused. Ernie Hudson was hired, thought he was going to have a bigger role in Ghostbusters until the night before, got the new version of the script, and they really chopped down a lot of poor Ernie Hudson's role. Because the studio felt Bill Murray was going to be the big selling point of the movie and wanted more Bill Murray. So that's what they did. They gave Murray more of a starring role. They said, Ernie, sit on the bench. So anyway, but here, I need my bosses for this. Other people, because again, they weren't sure if Bill Murray was going to give his okay, because he kept hitting and hauling all the time. Again, make up your mind, man. They had other people in mind just in case. And these people were like waiting in the wings. Michael Keaton, Tom Hanks, Richard Pryor was considered for the Bill Murray role. Robin Williams. I mean, there were some heavyweights there, ready to pick up the ball and run with it if Bill Murray said no thanks. But he decided, in the end, to his benefit, he decided to go ahead with the movie. And later on, Bill Murray said it's the best thing he ever did. To all the movies Bill Murray made, including the serious ones, after Ghostbusters, he said, I will always be identified with Ghostbusters. Because he felt that's what really made him very, very famous. So anyway, yeah, we know Rick Moranis was signed. A lot of these great, oh my God, a lot of these great Saturday Night Live comics. But did you ever watch the Canadian one? SCTV. Ever watch SCTV? Oh, that was a great show. Yeah, it was probably, to me, it was funnier than SNL because you had John Candy on it. And you had Rick Moranis, you had all these guys who started out with the Second City TV in Chicago, did SCTV. And, such great sketches. Andrea Martin, so many great comedians. So, um, anyway, John Candy was offered a role in Ghostbusters. He turned it down. Yeah, you gotta think. A lot of these gods, um, are they sorry? Did they think about that name? A lot of these famous movies, you know, like there were people like Tom Selleck. Did you ever hear that story? Tom Selleck. Well, he had a big gig in Magnum PI. He had a lot of big roles, right? Tom Selleck turned down the role as Han Solo in Star Wars. Oh, sorry, Michelle. But it pisses me off too. What was he thinking of? Well, certainly Harrison Ford was thankful that Tom Selleck was a dumbass to turn that down, you know? And now Harrison Ford, he's still acting and he's still going strong. And of course, he was known for the Indiana Jones movies. But what buttered his bread, what made him famous, was the Han Solo, right? And to think that Tom Selleck turned it down. Well, anyway. So that's what happened. So a lot of other famous people, famous actors, comics, turned down roles in Ghostbusters. Who knows why? Maybe the money wasn't there. Maybe they thought the script was stupid. I don't know. But they're sorry to do. A couple final things. A lot of New York landmarks were filmed in that movie. Because it was filmed, the majority of it was filmed in New York. Uh, oh, Huey Lewis. Did you hear about that thing? Yeah, this is a very good example. Huey Lewis was offered the part of the musical of writing the Ghostbusters song and writing the whole thing musical. Now, this was before Huey Lewis did Back to the Future, The Power of Love and all. Huey Lewis turned it down because this is a legit reason for me. He was doing Back to the Future and decided he could do both. Because they were making Back to the Future in 1984, as well as making Ghostbusters. So, anyway, Huey Lewis turned it down, which is, I can absolve him of that sin, because he was busy doing another iconic movie. But there you go, But do you know they went through between 50 and 60 different songs until they came upon Ray Parker Jr., who offered his Ghostbusters song, the iconic song, which went to #1. In fact, that song added, how should I put it? It added $20 million onto the gross payout of Ghostbusters. Just that song. $20 million. Anyway, my final thoughts about Ghostbusters. Well, it's a classic. Most of your movie magazines, most of your pop culture things like Rolling Stone, like have Ghostbusters rated in the top 100 movies in the world, as well as the top comedies in the top. Ghostbusters was right up there. So from a little movie that started with this wacky idea in the brain of Dan Aykroyd because his grandfather wrote a book about ghosts back in the day. It became this multi-million-dollar thing where again they had sequels, all the merchandise. Everybody back then was wearing the Ghostbusters T-shirt. The kids were playing with the little Hot Wheels Ghostbuster ambulance car. You know what I mean? They had the guns, the slimy guns. Yeah, and did you remember on Nickelodeon? Remember that? Did you still Nickelodeon still around? I don't know. I'm in my 60s. Why? I don't watch Nickelodeon, but anyway, the slime all came from Ghostbusters, right? So, if you think of the impact that movie has had on our culture, for good or for bad, probably could have did away with the slime. But anyway, it is amazing. Will affect that movie. What I love. Yep. Plus, it was a funny movie, and it had Ghostbusters is registered, my friends, with the National Registry in Washington, D.C., where it is an official movie that they deem worthy of saving, like the official original print and everything is down in Washington, D.C. So there. I mean, if I see it on TV, I'll watch it again. I'll stop. A lot of it is streaming now, but you know what I'm saying. If you're around like the old cable channels, like uh, Turner Movie Classics or whatever, just stop and watch it. Sure, why not? Even though I know what's going to happen, it's still a fun movie to have all this the slide and the ghost, blah blah blah. It's funny and fun. There you go. That's our Ghostbusters wrap up. Right? Well, I'm exhausted after that. Geez, for a guy who's 118 years old, I needed that. No, it was a lot of fun to talk about. I like talking about old TV shows. I think I'm going to bring that back. And then be coming one year and bore you with sports and whatever the hell I have to talk about. We'll come back one and talk about old TV shows. And we'll just shoot the shit. You and me, right? We'll just da. We'll just talk about the Beverly Hillbillies or whatever. Well, and for me, an old guy like me, it brings back the memories. It fires up the neurons in the old brain, which is shutting down anyway. And it helps me as well as hopefully helps you. Brings back a lot of memories, doesn't it? And I love, like I said, I love the 80s. My favorite decade, I think of any that I've lived through. And God knows I've lived through a lot. The 80s are probably so. Reliving the Ghostbusters story has been a kick for me too. And I hope it's been a kick for you too. So I'll be back. I'll be back as Arnold Schwarzenegger. I'll be back. I don't know when, because I'm dealing with two fractures right now. Two for the price of one. Yeah, I mean this arm right here, the left is broken, but I gotta use it to transfer around. I gotta use it, which is probably stupid because I aggravated it. Yeah, what are you gonna do? And then I busted it right to the other right transfer. So yeah, well, two cracks are better than one, right? So I'm sort of on the mend right now, but coming on and talking to my friends there all around the world helps me take my mind and photos. See that? Oh, and I got one more bit of news before I say sign off, which is goodbye in Japanese occasion. Yeah, I wrote all these short stories, which are being printed, published in different magazines and online stuff. It's pretty cool. I've written about 42 short stories now. Mostly like speculative fiction, like Twilight Zone kind of thing. With the twisty endings and fun stuff. 42, 30 of them have been published. I've got another one going to be published later this summer, and another one that was just simple. Well, anyway, uh, I got word from a publisher over the weekend that the whole damn collection has been accepted for a new book. Hopefully coming out next year. So all my short stories, maybe not all 42, but maybe a nice solid collection, maybe like 25, the really good ones. The ones that aren't so, we'll wait for a volume 2. But the really good ones will be out. And handy dandy little book, we're gonna have them all together, and you can have it there and read it before bedtime. It'll help you fall asleep. No, this one's going to be a real book you can carry around. Take the one you're waiting at the doctor's office. You open the book, you read one of my short stories. Before you know it, they call your name. Mr. Smith, come on. Yeah, so I can't wait for that to happen. So I'll keep you updated on that as time goes by, and we'll see what happens there, huh? Huh? You know what? After I retired as a social worker, writing has given me a new purpose in life. And we all need purposes in life. Because, I went through that stage of retire. You think, all right, what am I going to do? Right? Just hang around the house and get in people's way. Get out of the way. Oh, man, get out of the way. Well, writing has given me a new project. And writing has given me a new purpose. So along with dealing with these little bones and these fractures, I get to take my mind off of things by writing. And it's kind of cool when people actually like what I've written and actually want to publish it, which still beats the hell out of me. It's like, oh, really? You like this stuff? Okay, I'll keep cranking it out. So, no, every time one of my stories is published and accepted, it's like I'm very honored and thrilled that people like the stuff that I write. So anyway, sometime next year, another book will be coming out, and we'll have plenty of time to talk about that down the road. All right, so I'll be back sometime this week. We'll talk more Phillies. Phillies are hitting the road down. They're playing up in Toronto, Canada for the next 3 games. And then they're going to Milwaukee next weekend to play the Brewers. Now, don't sleep on those Brewers. The Brewers are a good team. They're in first place in National League Central. Looks like they're going to make the playoffs in the show. The Brewers are one of these organizations. They always have a solid team every year, but they never get to the World Series. They never can win the big one to get to the big World Series where they can win the freaking championship. It just doesn't happen. They're good, but they're not good enough. Well, we'll see what happens this coming weekend when the Phils invade Milwaukee. By the end of the week, we should have a full picture of this Knicks and San Antonio series. Is San Antonio going to come back and make it a series? Wouldn't it be hell for those New Yorkers up there, where they're going out of their minds up there right now? If the Knicks end up losing this series, oh my God! What about Carolina and Vegas? They're playing tomorrow night. Is that going to be a series? My. So, by the end of the week, we'll have a lot more to talk about. And by the end of the week, I think I'm going to come up with another old classic TV show, or another classic movie. So you and I can talk about it, and just sit around and have a drink and just shoot the movies. I think that seems like a way. All right, everybody. Thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in, as always. Peace and love to you. I hope to see you again next time. And next time you have nothing to do, put Ghostbusters on. And remember this little talking a lot and enjoy that movie. I think it's a classic, and I like watching it again soon. So take care. Go Phillies tonight, and I'll see you next time. Thanks so much.